Last call. Jake Helton, Freddy Hawthorne here today. You might be wondering where Caden's at. He's in a conference, the BEA conference in Las Vegas, with a couple other classmates along with GM Rick Dunkel as well. But the show goes on. Freddy filling in here at the desk today, and we are excited to have him here. But we've had some exciting basketball as well. A lot being played over the weekend. But we'll start off with UConn versus South Carolina. UConn takes home the national championship 82-59. South Carolina got off to a hot start. They were making shots, had a lead heading into the end of the first quarter. They lost that lead, and UConn really just pulled away from there. Yeah,
I would just say, first off, we have two great programs going head-to-head against each other, two great coaches, and I would just say that UConn, they played really, really good defensively. I would say that AZ Fudd played amazing defensively. She had 3 steals along with 24 points, and they just couldn't find a way to stop Sarah Strong. 24 points, 15 rebounds, 3 blocks. She was unstoppable.
That's exactly who I was getting ready to talk about. Sarah Strong might have put together one of the best freshman performances in all of college basketball, not just this year, but I'm talking like ever. And that's saying a lot, especially on a UConn team that has produced some of the best players to play not only in college, but also the WNBA. You look back to the four-peat, 2013, 14, 15, and 16. 16, the last time UConn won a national championship, and Paige Bueckers finally able to take them over the top. She averaged 25 points per game this tournament, on top of a 17-point performance in the final game. A for sure #1 pick, but what's next for Paige Bueckers?
I would say the WNBA is next for Paige Bueckers. I don't see Paige Bueckers not being a top pick in the W. I think her game can change the WNBA. I think she's a very skilled guard, and she's been through a lot. She's been through an ACL tear, then she comes back. She has the Final Four loss to Caitlin Clark, and then she bounces back a year after that, and then here she is now, a national champion. So, I think the sky's the limit for Paige Bueckers, and I'm excited to see what comes next.
And then going back to Fudd, she's already said that she's going to come back for another year here at UConn, continue to play for Coach Gino. And with 12 national championships up in the rafters, you got to think this team reloading, they're going to be going for number 13 next year.
Yeah, number 13 is definitely coming soon. When you have a freshman like Sarah Strong and then AZ Fudd, who is also returning, I don't see why they don't, come back and try and do it again. But at the same time, we do have a team like South Carolina who is now out for blood, looking for revenge and trying to, come back and get another national championship for themselves.
Dawn Staley, proven to be one of the best coaches in women's basketball. But we've got 2 games that happened on Saturday. We've got one tonight, a big one in the national championship. Florida and Houston win their Final Four matchups. They will be playing in the national championship tonight. Around 8:50 is the tip. First, we'll take a look at that Florida game. What an exciting matchup. I was telling people all week, this is the game you want to watch. Florida, they can shoot the ball, they can get to the basket, but Auburn did a phenomenal job in that first half, keeping them out of the paint, denying the dribble handoff, really forcing Florida to take tough shots. But that second half, Walter Clayton Jr. just took over, man.
What I can say about this weekend of basketball, with all #1 seeds being in the Final Four, that gave us really good basketball. The Florida versus Auburn game was no exception. All the way into the end, I would say it was pretty much back and forth. But then you have Walter Clayton. He closed the game. He had 8 points in the final 5 minutes of that basketball game, and I could probably tell you that those 8 points were probably the reason that they won that game. If, Houston wants a chance at winning a national championship, that is the guy that you have to stop. You have to stop Walter Clayton or else you're not going to have a chance.
I have 2 defining moments in this game. 1:30 to go. Every single person on Florida's team touched the ball on an offensive possession. They moved the ball around. That possession ended in a Walter Clayton and one, pretty much the game ending and one with about 1.5 minutes to go. Then you look back to that Elijah Martin steal and dunk on 2 players.
Yeah, the poster.
You're going to see that for the rest of the week, the rest of the month probably. An absolutely electric dunk, 17 points from him. He was really that second piece that stepped up and pushed Florida over top.
Yeah, I would say that Elijah Martin definitely played a huge role in that win. Especially going down the stretch. Those defensive stops, his energy going along with Walter Clayton Jr.'s, amazing scoring ability. His 5 3-pointers, he went 5 for 8 on that game. So, just all around that team, if they can come back for, one more game and, try and replicate that performance, I think they do have a good chance at winning a national title.
Well, Florida outscores Auburn 41-27 in the second half. They're heading back to another national championship. But let's talk about this Walter Clayton Jr. guy. What a baller. He can get to the basket at will. He's got an insane motor. I got a crazy player comparison. Think back a couple years, not too long, Jalen Suggs for Gonzaga. I think they have a very similar play style. I think Walter Clayton can shoot the ball just a little bit better. I think that's the one thing that really puts him above Jalen Suggs, in my opinion, which is not a crazy thing to say. I think that Walter Clayton Jr.'s game translates very well into the NBA. He's actually the first player with back-to-back 30-point performances in the Elite Eight and Final Four. I'll let you guess who. An Indiana legend.
Indiana legend. Larry Bird?
Yes, sir. 1979, Larry Bird in the Indiana State Sycamores. I believe that was the year that he lost to Magic Johnson in the national championship. But we've got another good game before we talk about this matchup. Houston and Duke, the biggest comeback in Final Four history. It was 14 points in the second half with about, 12 minutes to go. Houston fights their way back. It was really that full court press. But let's talk about the coaching from Kelvin Sampson.
I mean, one thing I can say about this Houston team is they do know how to play defense when it matters, and they do know how to make stops. And when it comes to Duke, I mean, your best guys, for the most part, played their best. Cooper Flagg, 27-7. Con Canopal, 16-7. But what we didn't have is the three-point shooting ability from Tyrese Proctor. I want to say the Houston defense, they came out there, and they completely shut down Tyrese Proctor. So when you look at that and you look at those missed shots and you look at it only being a three-point game, I mean, you have to give Houston their props for coming in there and shutting down what I would like to say is Duke's best shooter.
I mean, they absolutely flustered Duke defensively in the second half. They also ended the game on a 15-3 run. They started rebounding very well, and then you add in a couple of missed free throws late from Duke, and you've got yourself a comeback in the makings. L.J. Cryer, 26 points, 5 rebounds. Emmanuel Sharp, 16 points. Jawan Roberts, 11 points, 12 rebound, double-double. That's the big one. Duke did a phenomenal job of shutting down Jawan Roberts in the first half. He was big in that comeback in the second half. And then I want to talk about the three-pointer Emmanuel Sharp hit at the end of the game. I think it brought him within 3, but that was really the difference maker in my eyes. When he hit that 3, I went from, oh, Duke's got this on lock to, oh, wait, maybe Houston has an opportunity here. And, well, they obviously took full chance or really took that opportunity and were able to come out, and now they're heading to a national championship.
Yeah, I mean, and then even the inbound pass steal was kind of crazy, and then that which led to the missed 3 and then the putback to cut it down to 1 point. I mean, I think that just goes along to show their defensive intensity and how they just never gave up that entire game, which led to a historic comeback.
And you want to talk about that defense, very nagging. Duke, only 1 field goal in the last 10 minutes and 30 seconds of that game, so you can tell. Obviously, I think one thing that people aren't going to talk much about is how tired Duke was. You could tell Cooper Flagg, when he hit that last three-pointer, that was the only field goal they hit in the last 10 minutes. He had a very well-timed three-point shot, and I thought that was the thing that was going to put him over the edge. I was like, okay, Duke hit that, they're back, they're going to start scoring, winning, but no. That's the thing. Houston didn't let Cooper Flagg go off like Auburn let Walter Clayton Jr. go off. That's where you see those 8, 10-point bursts. But no, Houston's defense is very disciplined. But the big question for me now is, what does Cooper Flagg do? Does he stay at the college level? Does he go and play in the NBA? He's pretty much a for sure #1 pick, if not a top 3. You think about who they're losing. Knipple, he's probably leaving. Proctor probably leaving. Malach, he's probably leaving as well. So you're losing your top 4 or 5 guys on Duke. Is it worth it to return for Cooper Flagg? You also got to think about the Boozer twins coming in as well. So where are you looking for Cooper Flagg to head?
I think it's in Cooper Flagg's best interest to go to the NBA. I think he's obviously the #1 pick. And when you look at the 2 teams who could potentially grab him, I mean, I'm not a fan of the Utah Jazz having the first round pick, but I am a fan of the Washington Wizards. I would like to see Jordan Poole and Cooper Flagg on the floor together. I think that's a really good dynamic duo, and that gets something started in Washington.
You know, that's an interesting matchup there. I do kind of like that player or them playing together, I should say. Jordan Poole didn't have a great game last night, but you've seen what he can do.
He has potential for sure.
Exactly, and I think Cooper Flagg coming in, you want to put him on a team where he has as much freedom as possible. One thing I noticed at Duke is in the system, he's not as good. You think about some of the games where they had to play strictly adhered to a game plan. Right. Cooper Flagg wasn't scoring 30 points. You look back to that Houston game, they said, let's go. Go hoop, go get some buckets, and that's exactly what he did. So I think one thing that you look at Cooper Flagg, he needs the freedom that Trae Young has in Atlanta to just do whatever he wants. Not really had to play underneath of someone, maybe say like Luka and LeBron right now, fighting for the top shot. He needs to be that top option for whatever team he goes to next year. Now let's take a look at this national championship game. Florida versus Houston, 8:50 tip. As it sits right now, Florida favored by 1.5. Well, this Houston defense only allowing 58 points per game. Florida, they're scoring 85. Unstoppable force versus immovable object. Who wins this matchup, Freddie?
I think that, from what I've seen from Walter Clayton so far, I'm not going to doubt him. I'm going to go Florida Gators in this matchup. But I am going to say if Houston does want to win a national championship, that's the guy you need to stop. You can't let Walter Clayton have another 34-point night and hit 5 3-pointers again. If you do that, you're not going to be a national champion. So I think for Houston, their point of emphasis needs to be on Walter Clayton Jr. tonight.
And to your point, you look to that matchup against Duke. They really struggled against the guards. You take out Tyrese Proctor, Knipple and Cooper Flagg had about half of Duke's points in that matchup, so they definitely struggled there. My question is, can Houston make Florida take tough shots? Because late in that game, Florida was shooting whatever they wanted, wherever they wanted, really whenever they wanted to shoot the ball. So can Houston's defense be that difference maker in this one? And then vice versa, how does Florida handle Cryer and Roberts? That's a big matchup for me. Roberts down low, I think that he should have another double-double easy. Cryer, I'm looking for 30 out of him. If Houston wants to win, he's got to have 30 points.
He's got to have 30 points, like you said, and like I said, Juwan Roberts also has to have the double-double. But when you look at Florida, I think that that's what they have to look into. They have to win the rebounding game as well. Not only do they have to score offensively, they have to make sure that they're getting every rebound that they possibly can and that they're making shots. Those tough shots that you're talking about, I saw Walter Clayton hit a bunch of tough shots, a few nights ago. So when you look at tough shots, I don't think that's going to be a problem for Florida. I just think they just have to be on their A game.
And you look to Alex Condon. That's one thing that I want to highlight from that Auburn game. Janai Broome absolutely shut down Alex Condon. He had 1 point, 1 of 5 from the field, so he wasn't even really getting up shots. That just tells you the pressure. So I look at that as a big red flag. If you're big man, he's not getting assists, he's not scoring, he's not really rebounding very well. Why are you in the game at that point? It's kind of a waste of a fifth person. So if I'm Florida, that's where I'm looking for that big improvement. You need Alex Condon to step it up. Close to a double-double. He's got to really guard Roberts well. Then I think you start competing. Will Richards, he was 0 for 3 against Auburn from behind the arc. I expect him to shoot a little bit better. But if you're going to rely on Walter Clayton, you're going to live or die by it. If he doesn't have 30, 35 points, you're probably not going to win this game. And I think that's just how it's going to be for Florida. You have to have your best player play his best game. And that's what the national championship really comes down to sometimes. But we'll go back to last week's question because I do think that I okayed an apology. I'll say it now because he's not here, but he was definitely right. Walter Clayton Jr. is the best player left in the tournament now and was last week as well. Janai Broome had a horrible second half. He had 3 points. He looked like he wouldn't have been able to run 10 feet down the court and be able to score. He hit a 3-pointer, I think, in the second half, and that was really it. 15 points out of him. Florida did a phenomenal job against their best player. That's what gives me hope that they'll be able to lock down Roberts and also limit Cryer on the offensive end. It really just comes down to, can Florida score on Houston's defense? And I think the answer to that question is yes. Florida wins this national championship by double digits.
Yeah, when you have a 3-level scorer like Walter Clayton, Houston, I would say they're in trouble. He can score anywhere on the floor. He can get to the lane. He can shoot at the mid-range, and, his 3-ball is really nice as well. So, it'll definitely be a game to watch.
You talk about that 3-ball. The Pacers, they had quite a few threes. Broke a record 2 weeks ago. Last night, they take down the Nuggets. We'll talk about that when we return on Last Call.
Good morning, Greyhounds.
Your weekly dose of Greyhound entertainment.
I think if you watch our team, they have fun. They have fun playing.
There's so much that you can do to get the most out of your experience.
Our alumni care deeply about the success of this university.
Come here. Watch Good Morning Greyhounds every Saturday at 9 a.m. Catch us on UNDTV's YouTube channel and Xfinity channel 1096.
The Indianapolis Pacers getting a big win last night over the Denver Nuggets. Couldn't have come at a bigger time, as the standings in the West and the East pretty close. We'll talk about the East in a little bit, but first, let's take a look at the Pacers. Miles Turner, an elite night. 24 points against the Joker, really gave him the business. He had a three very late. I think it was Steph Curry range, the three-pointer from Miles Turner. Very impressive game. I got to watch the second half of this. The difference for me, Denver had 13 turnovers. The Pacers only had 6.
Yeah, and I mean, when you look at Indiana's supporting cast, I mean, behind Tyrese Halliburton had 9 points, but he also had 14 assists. When you look at everyone else on that roster, Aaron Naismith, 17, Andrew Nibbert, 19, and Miles Turner, 24 with 4 three-pointers, along with Obi Toppin's 22 points. So I remember us having a conversation a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about Tyrese Halliburton when he facilitates. And we look here, 9 points, but you have 14 assists, and you beat the Denver Nuggets. So, I mean, does that go along with kind of what we've been saying?
Absolutely. You look at all of the games that the Pacers win handily, it's because Tyrese Halliburton is playing good. They had a stretch where he was not playing, and they were still playing very well, but I think that's outlier compared to the rest of the season. When Tyrese Halliburton isn't playing well, this Pacers team is not playing well. One thing I do want to highlight, Jarris Walker really stepping up as of late. 3 for 3 from the three-point line. He just hits big shots at big times, and I think that's what this Indiana Pacers team has been living on. You look at this game, it was close all the way through. Pacers had a 10-point run in the fourth quarter. The Nuggets have a 10-point run in the fourth quarter. It comes down to the free throw shooting. Can you handle the ball late in the game? The Nuggets turn it over on their last possession. The Pacers are able to get in, get fouled, hit a couple free throws. That's the difference. It really comes down to the last 3-4 possessions in games like this. Don't want to overshadow the 41-15 or 12-15 that the Joker had last night. Very impressive out of him, as well as Christian Braun, 30 points, 8 rebounds on top of that. But Freddie, I'll ask you one last time, because we got, 1 week left of NBA basketball. Is this Pacers team going to make some noise in the playoffs?
I don't know. After this game, they kind of leave me confused a little bit, because, we talk about last week, we kind of called for Tyrese Halliburton to kind of facilitate the ball more, and he's done that. But when you look at this Denver Nuggets team, they did not have Jamal Murray in this matchup. And when you just look at the stats statistically, Michael Porter Jr. went 1 for 9 from three-pointer, and Nikola Jokic went 3 for 11. So, I mean, if we're going to bank on teams having terrible shooting nights every time Indiana walks into the arena to play them, then I can say that the Pacers have a chance. But that's just not how basketball works. I mean, these teams are going to play 10 times better. Jamal Murray is going to be back in 3 weeks, and they're going to be seeing different teams than in the playoffs. So if I do look at Indiana, I still say that they are a second-round exit team, and that, I still have Cleveland coming out, or Cleveland or Boston coming out of that Eastern Conference.
It's hard not to, especially the way that, the Cavs not playing as good as of late, but the Celtics still doing their thing. I think the more interesting conversation in the NBA right now is the West. You look at the standings, it's all within a game. Now there's 4 teams tied for 6th place, I believe, right now, all tied at 46 wins apiece. We'll get a look at that. Yeah, the Grizzlies, Clippers, Timberwolves, and Warriors are all at 46 wins on the season. A couple of tiebreakers in there. Leave the rankings as number 4, the Nuggets, number 5, the Warriors, number 6, the Timberwolves, number 7, the Clippers, and number 8, the Grizzlies. So we'll first start off with those bottom 4. We'll look at 5, 6, 7, and 8, all at 46. Who do you have being on top of those 4 teams coming into that 6th spot? That's a pretty nice spot to be actually in the West. So who do you think is going to take that?
Take the number 6 spot. I think that I want to say that Golden State moves a little higher in those rankings, to that 5 or maybe even 4 spot, and then I'd probably have LA or even Minnesota taking that number 6 spot. Anthony Edwards is playing good basketball right now. Usually when it comes around to the playoffs, he tends to turn it up a notch. So I'd like to say that the Minnesota Timberwolves will be in a good position heading into playoff contention.
As we look, as I mentioned, 4 games left for each team, and I kind of did a little bit of figuring last night to figure out where I thought everyone would fall. I think the Warriors have a very good chance of going 4-0 in their last 4 games. They're currently on a 5-game win streak, playing great with Jimmy Butler. He's facilitating. He isn't shooting the ball as well, which is one thing I have noticed. He's not scoring at as high of a rate as he was in Miami. But you look at this, he's facilitating very well. Steph Curry didn't have a great game last night, only had 3 points. That's something definitely going to keep my eye on. But other than that, they've got Phoenix, San Antonio, Portland, and LA Clippers, all winnable games in my opinion. I think they end the season on a 9-game win streak. What do you think about that?
Besides the Houston game that, you just talked about last night, Stephen Curry has averaged 40 points in the month of April. I mean, they're 20-5 with Jimmy Butler. And I just want to, take a look at the Warriors before Jimmy Butler. Stephen Curry, before Jimmy Butler got there, was probably getting doubled or triple teamed every night. He was getting chased around the court, and things were getting tough for him. And, when they added Jimmy Butler, it seemed like everything turned around. It seemed like teams had more to worry about. You have a defensive player of the year in Draymond Green, and it just looks like things started to click at a way different level than it was, prior to that.
And then the other big question, number 3 and number 4, the Lakers and the Nuggets, they sit at 48-47. I mean, obviously all those games are very close, but I think that's your question. Who's going to be that 4 and 5 game, and who escapes that matchup?
A couple weeks ago, or a couple of days ago, I would like to say, it was LA and Golden State. They were sitting at that 4 and 5 position, and that was looking like a really good first-round game. We've seen LA play really good basketball in the past couple of days. Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic have definitely stepped up in the past few weeks. I mean, in the game they played against Oklahoma City, I think LeBron only had 19 and 7, and then you have 30 and 20 coming from Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves. So when you look at LA, they do have a good chance at staying in that 3 spot. Right now, that 4 and 5 is looking like Denver, and I would like to say that Golden State goes from number 6 to 5, and we see the Nuggets and the Warriors facing off in the first round.
I mean, that's a very good take. I think the team that's really impressed me the most out of the West is the Rockets. I mean, you talk about that turnaround that they've had, one of the best. Dillon Brooks, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of the way he is just like personality-wise, but on the court, he's a great defender, and he has been a very solid piece for this team to build around. You look to just last year, they were at the bottom, barely trying to compete for a play-in game. Now they're at the 2 seed, looking to compete for maybe even a championship. I don't think they're at that level yet. I think they still are missing that one piece. I don't know what it is, because they play great defense. Just sometimes they get blown out. I mean, there's been multiple times this year where they've been blown out by 20-plus points.
I think they're still a young team. I think Houston is still a very young team. Asar Thompson is only in his 2nd year, but they are a great defensive team. Asar Thompson is a great defender. I mean, you compare that with Dillon Brooks and Jalen Green, who's a long guard who can get to the rim with these. These guys do have an opportunity. I just don't think it's right now. They're playing good basketball right now. They're sitting at the number 2 seed. But when you go into the playoffs and you have all of these guys who have been there before, who have been in these positions, I just don't think Houston lasts long.
They have a very, very, very tall wall in front of them in the Oklahoma City Thunder. We'll talk about them real quickly. The number 4 in points per game, number 2 in opponents' points per game, number 1 in average margin, as well as assist to turnover ratio. I would say statistically the best defensive team in the league. There's a couple kind of floating around at this point, but I'd say to me, this Oklahoma City team, the best defensive team. And unfortunately, I was going to say, you got to see it last night, but they played horrible. Absolutely horrible performance from the Thunder last night. But I don't think that they're really counting these games. I think they're already looking forward into that first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, I think one thing that the game from last night kind of raised a question about, if anything, I'm not really too concerned about them, but it kind of did raise a question of what does the Thunder do when Shai's the only one scoring? Or what's going to happen if Shai has 26 and no one else helps him? And I think you see what you saw last night. I think you see them getting blown out by a team like the Los Angeles Lakers. I mean, Shai, 26 and 9. That's still a good game from your shooting guard. But when you look at the top 2 scorers after that, Jalen Williams, 16 points, Chet Holmgren, only 10. So, I mean, in the playoffs, we have 7 games. You're going to play forward to win. So when you look at that, who's going to help Shai on the nights where he doesn't score?
Yeah, I mean, you can't really ask a guy to average 40 points in a 7-game series. I know some teams, they look to do that, but if he's going to be averaging his 30, 32 points per game, you got to have someone in the 20s. Someone has to be around that range. They thought it was going to be Chet Holmgren. He's dealt with some injury, hasn't been as big of a force offensively as they thought. He's just turned into more of a defensive player, in my opinion. But Jalen Williams, He's that player that is the difference maker in whether this team goes to the championship or not, in my opinion. If he's out there scoring, playing defense, he really just has to score. I mean, they're going to play defense no matter what. It's the Oklahoma City Thunder. So I think the one thing, can he be that second, maybe third scorer behind Chet Holmgren? And then can Lou Dort hit the three? He is just a spot-up three-point shooter for this Oklahoma City team. If he can do that and he's actually hitting, this team is unbeatable.
Yeah, I mean, and Lou Dort on the defensive end as well. He is a really good defender. And I remember I seen a post that Shai Gilgeous made about what Lou Dort has done to teams when they come into Oklahoma. He's shutting down every point guard that he is in front of. So when you look at that, him playing defense and him hitting shots, they are a really dangerous team. But when they have bad games and they have off nights, they're almost the total opposite.
Well, against the top 5 in the West, Oklahoma City currently sits 7-7. So that's something that I do kind of highlight. And, okay, you can beat the bad teams, but can you beat the good teams? This was something we looked at earlier in the season with the Pacers. I see that this is very telling. They're 1-2 against Golden State, 2-2 versus Denver. The only team they're positive against is Houston, which I do think is a good thing because that's, in my opinion, the second best defense in the West. So if you're going number 1 offense versus number 2 defense, I'd say that if you're winning that battle more often than not, that's a good sign heading into the playoffs because everyone knows the shooting. It's just downhill as soon as you head into the playoffs. You look at playoff P. Everyone thought he was going to be the GOAT, and I think he went like a combined 10 for 40, 10 for 50 in those couple of games that he was playing in. Yeah. But as we look at the rest of the West, we'll go back to those standings momentarily just because I want to talk about the Clippers. They're also on a 5-game win streak, something that not very many people are talking about. Kawhi Leonard, he's playing great, but Norman Powell, how about him? 20 points per game? I mean, I haven't really heard anything about this dude in a while, but 22 points per game this season. He's the second leading scorer on this Clippers team. Clippers actually have 3 players averaging over 20 points, which I think is a great stat to have going back to Oklahoma City. You don't have to focus on one guy scoring, but do you think the Clippers, they can make some noise in this year's tournament?
I don't see why they couldn't. I mean, as you look at the numbers here in the 5th, almost through 8th seed, all these games are a few games away from each other. So when you look at that competition in the Western Conference, all of these games in the first round are going to be in the air for the most part. You're really not going to know for certain who's going to win these games. And when you look at Kawhi Leonard, I mean, people call him the glove for a reason. He's a defensive juggernaut, and he's also an offensive juggernaut. And you have James Harden, who isn't, the same James Harden we saw when he was scoring 50 points, but he is a guy who can go out there and give you 18 to 20 points, every night. So when you look at that, I do think LA has a chance to make it to that second round, maybe even the third.
All right. Well, thank you, Freddie. We'll take a look at the final standings in the NBA next Monday as the final games will be played on Sunday. But for now, it's time for everybody's favorite part, the Primetime Pick Em. You might be wondering, how are we going to do this? Caden, not by my side today. We actually got some videos from Caden in Vegas, so we're going to go ahead and throw those in alongside my picks. That way we can keep things going. Fun fact for everyone, the Lakers actually ruined my perfect week last week. I was 4-0 heading into last night, and the Lakers had to muck things up for me. I went 4-1 though, and I know Caden got 2 picks wrong at least, so we'll take a look at those records. First game, we've got the Sacramento Kings versus the Pistons. I'll defer to you, Caden.
Prime time in Vegas, first game, Kings and Pistons, second, Celtics at Knicks. First one I'm thinking, I love the Pistons. I love what they're working. They're 5th right now in the East for a reason, and they get it done in this game. All
righty, thank you, sir. For me, though, I'm going to go with the Pistons. I like the Pistons in this one. Cade Cunningham, I did see the Kings win this weekend, but for me, I do like the Pistons in this matchup. I love Cade Cunningham. On to the next one, though, the Celtics versus the Suns. Suns, they are a sad team this year. Celtics, they are up. I'm going to go with the Celtics. My only concern is that their best players don't play this week. Right. I still think that they would win, even with their reserves. Give Peyton Pritchard a 30-point game, and I think he's got this one. Caden, what are you thinking?
Second, Boston, great team. You're not the Knicks. Not the Knicks. Not in the Garden. It's a different squad. That's a playoff squad. That's a winning squad that is going to be scary in the East this year.
I realize I actually just messed that up. It's actually the Boston Celtics and the New York Knicks. Not sure what I was looking at. Suns are the next pick. They're still sorry, and I think Golden State is going to win that one. But Caden, what do you think?
Warriors are Phoenix playing some of their best basketball so far, taking them over the Suns.
As mentioned, I'm going to be going with the Golden State Warriors. They are in win now mode. They really need this one. And, well, as I mentioned in the previous pick, got a little too excited talking about the Suns. They suck. No surprise. They're not going to win that game. On to the next, Lakers versus the Mavericks. And for me, well, Mavericks, they're not going to do it this time. I'm going with the Lakers. They just picked up a big win last night against OKC. I don't see why they couldn't do it against the Mavericks. Caden, over to you.
The Lakers reuniting with the Mavericks after an exciting season, to say the least. The Lakers have been playing great basketball, and they just won against a great Thunder team as well. They're riding red hot. I'm sticking with them.
Thank you for that, sir. Looks like you're having a very good time in Vegas. On to our final pick. We'll keep it here at home with the Pacers taking on the Cavs in Gainbridge Fieldhouse. We'll let Caden get his fifth and final pick from Las Vegas.
Cavs and Pacers should be a good one, two of the best in the East, but I think the Pacers offense, when it's at its best, is actually better than the top-seeded Cavs right now. Yes, the Pacers offense at their best is better than the Cavs' best. That's why I'm picking the Pacers at home today.
Shocker. Caden goes with the Pacers. I feel like every time that we pick the Pacers on here, he's going to pick the Pacers. I don't think the Pacers are going to win. We just talked about it. Cavs, I like them in the final, in the tournament. I don't know if they're going to play their best players, which does concern me a little bit. The Pacers don't necessarily need to win. Cavs don't necessarily need to win, but we'll stick with the Cavs on this one. I am concerned, though. Donovan Mitchell, small injury last night to the ankle. We'll keep an eye on that. On to the records, though. We'll take a look at those real quick. As I mentioned, I went 4-1 last week. As we get those up there, look at those beautiful faces. 4-game lead as we head into the final stretch. We've got, one more week of NBA basketball, I believe, in the first round, and then we're going to find some random things to pick. We might do soccer, EuroLeague soccer, hockey, who knows? We'll figure it out. Last call, Jake Helton, Freddy Hawthorne, Mondays at 6. You're listening to Last Call.